The only true asset you have in racing is where you're standing. Rod Osterland, what a crook. Earnhardt warned me about it. That's a whole nother story.
I wish I could get one for $1,400.
Well, you can. It'd be a big junk pile.
Exactly.
Biggest mistake I ever made in racing.
So we're here with Jimmy Spencer, and this used to be his Busch Series shop. We're gonna see how it used to work back in the day and get the story.
Look down through there. This was the first building ever here. I remember, it's hard to believe. Kenny Schrader bought all that property over there. I had bought these 2 lots. And how I built the building was, Myrick, he had built Dale's buildings. And Dale said that's the best guy to use. So we built an 8,000 foot building right here and it stopped. It's about 89. Started building it there. I was racing modifieds and I wanted to race the Busch Series. And that's right, I wanted my own building because my whole life I always worked for myself, my wife and I felt pretty naked down here without a place to go. So that's why we built this building.
Well, that was one of the questions I was going to ask you, so yeah, I guess we'll see what it looks like in there now. I'm pretty sure they just painted the walls in there like 2 weeks ago, because when I came here a couple weeks ago, it still had the wallpaper in there.
I didn't have wallpaper up.
You didn't?
No.
Huh.
My wife hates wallpaper. Wallpaper, I don't know. It covers up a lot of stuff. No, yeah, we built those bookcases. How you doing? Hey, that's where my sister works. She's gone. That's the shop on for the tractor trailers. It's like when we get this tile, we put this tile in. Wow, let's go down and check my office out. What do you think of this one? This is Chrissy's office. And then this was the crew chief's office, and then that went to the parts room. Yep. Same thing. Yep. And then this office, whose office was this? I don't even remember. I know we added that section on. Buster Otten's dad. Wayne Otten, Buster Otten, they're both working with NASCAR now. And their dad and those guys helped me build this in here, all this wood. He's been long gone. This was my office here. Wow, they really, yeah.
Was it this big?
We added this on, yeah. We added all this on. Now they're just remodeling. And that was a restroom. Man, brings back memories.
So would this have been your office even for everything you did, even if it was not like you didn't have an office at your house?
No.
This was your...
I never believed in having anything at your house except, family. I never put trophies up. I never did anything except we ate dinner, we raised 2 children. My wife raised the kids. And, we never brought racing to the house. So that's why I needed this shop.
Interesting.
I believe that when 5 o'clock comes, it's over. It never happened that day, you worry about it tomorrow, and then it's time to spend time with your family. This is it. Then we went to the break room, bathroom, ladies' bathroom, storage. Look at this girl here. This was our break room, bathrooms. They didn't change a whole lot. They make it look nice. They must get a deal from Willwood. What do you think?
Probably.
I was a Willwood guy since 1986. I ran Willwood my whole life. Bill Wood, good guy. Then that was upstairs, and that was all storage, sheet metal. We used to do all our own sheet metal. Then you go out here to the shop. Wow, look at these cars. Holy cow. Oh, they added a lift. Then here, like that went up to the shop. That went up to the storage. Then we built that. Then we had a forklift that would put the sheet metal, all the stuff upstairs. Then this went in. This was the gear room, the suspension room, similar to what they got. We had a guy in here that would take care of the gears, transmissions, axles, wheel bearings. I think his name was Al Pretzinger, one of the best. Al was one of the best mechanics that I ever had on my race car. Don't get along with him now, but he was very meticulous. And that was the parts room from the other side. Ford, look at this. This is a truck, isn't it?
It is.
So I figured it was a truck. Cool. Man, the shop looks bigger than it really is, but this was our shop. That's all we had. We had the cars lined up. Let me think how we did it. We had the cars lined up that way. And then we had a setup. I think the setup was over here.
See if there's still marks on the floor. Did you have a surface plate?
Yeah, we had a surface plate. Expensive back then. It was $5,000. It's a lot more. They don't even use it now. They use roomings and all that kind of stuff. Then we had this was a setup shop. We set the car up and then we rolled it out. Now that goes into the other building, but before, we didn't have the building. We didn't have the addition onto our. Man, alive. I don't even know how many years. I don't even remember. Bad getting old. See, this goes into this shop. And this wasn't here till I put the second team in. That's when we used this for storage and the 2 tractor trailers. As you could back the tractor trailers in here, then you could load the cars. And these guys are using it now as fabrication, try to keep this clean in here. And it's all the same. Then I think that was the Fab Shop. We had David McKay build a surface plate. We had a surface plate, frame jig. He would put the bodies on. Oh, David was a great guy. The memories. That would have been in the 90s. We won races and a lot of great memories. Yeah.
Does more stuff come back to your memory standing here looking at things than it does if you just try to recall it sitting somewhere else?
Well, I had a lot of good guys. I had a lot of young kids come through. And a couple of them the older guys are dead. And I used to have a guy come by, worked in NASCAR, he painted my cars. So he said, you need a paint booth. So we'll go to the paint booth. You know, it was just a matter of, you build it in time. It wasn't where you could just build stuff overnight. Today, they just, the money's so different. Back then, you had to beg, borrow to get money to go. These guys do nice work. Look at this car, GTO. That's badass, man. Whew. My favorite car, C2 Corvettes. I have 2 of them.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, I love them. Cuda. With a Hemi. Damn, man. Plumb crazy. Then we had stuff back along here. This is where we would take the cars from there, and then this is where we would finish with aluminum work. This had that was a bandsaw, shears. I had a shear for sheet metal. I had a shear for big steel. Drill presses. Then this was the aluminum shop. We had brakes, 8-foot brakes, pan brakes. I forget the smaller, I can't even remember the brakes. And this is where they put the aluminum and stuff all together. Then they roll the car through the door outside to the paint booth. And that was the prep area. We only ever had like 6 cars, was the most we had. I built a bigger building in the I started it in the late 80s, late 90s. And I think I moved in around 99. So I was here for about 10, 11 years. What was interesting is that this place started, and then when I moved, I quit racing my own teams to concentrate on Cup. And Tim Brewer came in here and rented this whole shop and started Cranifus Haas Racing. Michael Cranifus, it wasn't Haas, Cranifus and another name. But Michael Cranifus started his Cup team in there where John Andretti drove for. John's passed, but they number 37, I believe it was a Ford. Yeah,
Kmart car, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was Kmart, and they had built they started building their Cup team right here in the shop.
Didn't know that.
Yeah,
that's
then
pretty cool.
My other shop in Mooresville, big shop, a lot bigger than this, 4 or 5 times the size of this. I put the 2 teams over there, and then decided it was, I guess I got ahead of myself, but we were doing really, really well. But you can't compete with Hendrick, Roush. We did. We won some races against Roush and Hendrick, and Childress was the main competition with Harvick and Clint. Those guys. In fact, I helped them after I quit getting sponsors. I helped them get BB&T for Richard. I helped Holiday Inn, and Jeff Burton won in the Holiday Inn car. But I was tired of it. I don't look back and want to change anything. You always would. Never look back. Just keep looking forward. But what was interesting there is when I decided that it was time to just start cut back, as in my 50s, that it was time to figure your future. You know, you don't race till you're 80. And Michael Waltrip built his team in that shop over there. So it was pretty interesting that we had two guys start their operations in my shops.
Yeah.
Cool. Then we went into the body shop. Same thing. Whoa, Firebird convertible. This was our body shop. Still the same paint booth. Look at that. See, they're experimenting with colors. That's cool. This was put up because this is a firewall. I added 2 buildings on the other section here for rent. 2 5,000 square foot buildings. And then I got the brain fart, and that's what it was, that we could build our own motors. Biggest mistake I ever made in racing. Build my own motors. Rented the one building, and the other one I built for motors. So, after we built those 2 buildings, Tom Daly's the one that added this onto this building. Then, these 2 buildings, that was my motor shop. Big mistake. Wow. I lost my ass. When I look back now, you know the mistakes you made. That was one of them. Rented that one, then I got rid of the thing, and then I rented the motor shop to a guy. And then we actually outgrew this building because the 2 teams, I had Dick Trickle, Schneider, Zippo, All Pro Auto Parts. I had a bunch of sponsors, and it was time to move to another building. That would have been about 99, 2000. And I remember Rick Hendrick and mainly Joe Gibbs telling me that at the end of the day, the only true asset you have in racing is where you're standing. That's dirt. So that's why I always overbuilt, because I knew I could get my money back for real estate, because that's what I did in Pennsylvania. Sold used cars and dealt in real estate. And never lost any money on real estate. I still think it's the same today. But anyway, then we went back in here and then decided that the tractor trailers were getting, you know, the heat down here is bad, so we moved the tractor trailers in here. And then, you know, we just kept growing. This guy's got some nice stuff in his shop. Look at this truck.
It's cool when these former race shops still do cool stuff with cars. Not all.
There's a motor. Son of a baby. Oh, there is no sound in the world better than a big block Ford or a big block Chevy or a big block Hemi. Ooh, they got a thump. I raced a big block in the modifieds. Them sons of bees with a torque. Fuel injection. Badass. Ooh. Anyway, we go back into the body shop. But this is pretty cool. Brings back a lot of memories. The stuff they changed. Old Dave Jensen. Ha! Good guy. Oh, I had, he's dead. All these guys have died on me. Gut died. Gary, my other painter, died. Whew. Time moves on. My God, Eddie's never telling it. He worked for me. He worked for Gary Ballou. Great guy. He was a tuner. He could read the plugs, carburetors. Eddie worked for me. He was good at what he did. We won races with Eddie. Blew up a lot of motors. That's when he said you got to tell the engine builders to back up. Should have won Charlotte 4 times, 5 times. We won it once. We blew up Leading twice. We blew up at Texas, Leading. Mark won Texas. Nemechek won Charlotte. When Joe was going to win that race, I wasn't going to win that race. Joe was hooked up that day. That was Carl Wagner's car, motor. But I still blew it up, but I wasn't going to beat him then. Mark beat me At Texas, when I blowed up leading, Mark beat me twice at Charlotte, but I did beat Mark. When I finally put a motor in, it didn't blow up. Las Vegas, leading the race in Las Vegas, blowed up. Funny story there. We go to Vegas, I had 2 engine builders, Kevin Blanks and Hutter. And we were still in this shop. No, we were in the new shop. And Hutter had built the best motor he ever built. Kevin Blanks had built the best motor he ever built. And I had won Bristol the year before in my Busch car. And I said to my man Jerry, he was my main guy. He was one of my best guys. I could trust him. Jerry was fantastic. He's gone. Anyway, I said, Jerry, tell him to rebuild that Bristol motor back, so no problem. Make sure new pistons, whatever we need. So he does. So we go to Vegas, because the year before at Vegas, I was leading the race, and the motor blowed up. And Jeff Green won the race. I was leading at Texas, and the motor blowed up. I was leading at Charlotte, and the motor blowed up. I said, that's bullshit. I'm tired of blowing these damn motors up. And I put that Bristol motor in. So we get to Vegas, and Hutter comes over. He looks, he goes, that ain't my motor. And then he looks, Kevin Blanks comes over, he says, that ain't the motor I told Jerry to put in the car. Jerry says, oh, you gotta go talk to the boss. So he's in the trailer. So I go in the trailer, and I said, oh, here they are. So I popped the door open, and I said, Hutter, that's the best motor you ever built. Kevin, that's the best motor you ever built. But the motor that's in the car ain't gonna blow up. I'm tired of blowing up. Kevin says, it's gonna run a camera. I said, I'll handle it. We ended up winning the race. $96,000. That was big. It didn't blow up. But he was right. It ran out of power at the end of the straightaway because it was a short track motor. I don't know what they did. Cam, heads, all that kind of crap. But Earnhardt Jr., funny was because Jr. said he was faster and he had Hutter motor in. And Roush was third. I forget who was driving. I think Burton and somebody else. And Junior come on the radio to his old man, and he says, I can't get to him coming off the corner. I can catch him going in the corner, but I'm gonna have to move him a little bit. And Earnhardt said to him on the radio, there's 2 people you don't F with. You're talking to one and the other one's in front of you. So when Earnhardt told me that the next day at Vegas, I was pretty proud of that. He says, but I was good friends with Dale. He helped me get this building started. Could go over there all the time, talk to him. Was fortunate enough to drive his car for him. He was struggling. He was blaming his crew, and I went to drive for it. I was over here in this building in Enochville living, and he said, you have to come and drive my car. We were off on that Cup weekend. I said, no. I said, I'm not doing that, Dale. I said, I promised Pat the kids I was taking them to Carolyn's. He said, you'll be at Carolyn's. So that went on for like 2-3 weeks. And he said, you need to drive my car. I promise that you will be back. And when he said that, I said, what if it rains? He said, I promise you'll be back. Because Dale had his own airplane and everything. So I went with him. Best time I had ever at a Busch race. Got in the truck at Tony and Tony Jr. He had a black hauler. We drive up there, he had my own motel room. I couldn't believe that. Nobody but myself. I was like, wow, this is cool. Went to the track, practiced, didn't do nothing to the car. Told him what it was doing. Tony Jr. and the senior fixed it. And I said, you guys got it pretty damn good. I tell you, it's excellent in my opinion. So Dale flies in. He was at Michigan at the IROC race. He goes, what do you think, Jimmy? I says, car's a little on the snug side for the first few laps, and then it just comes dead neutral. I would think you're in good shape. That sumbitch came from the rear of the field to the lead the race. He was a race car driver. If you looked into the dictionary, Dale Earnhardt's face would show you race car driver. The next one is Kyle Larson. Wow, they're incredible drivers. And unfortunately, Dale had a bad pit stop. I think an air gun broke. He ended up getting third. But we get on the airplane. We're coming home. And he goes, Jimmy, what'd you do to that car? I said, nothing. I said, I told you I didn't do a damn thing. He said, oh, you're lying to me. I says, Dale, I didn't do nothing. I says, Tony, you know, Junior and them, I told them what I was doing. They changed the camber. Then they said, we got to stop. We got to change the A-frames. I didn't do nothing to just tell him what I was doing. He says, I figured that. He says, he said, what do you think's wrong? I says, last time I won a Busch race, I had a Moroso motor. I'm driving for Dick. I says, that thing had more power with 5 cylinders than your motor with 6. And Dennis Fisher had built the motor, and he says, that's what Richards told me, Childress. So he finally, which was not good for the competition, he finally got better motors. But Dale was, that son bitch was gifted, that's all I'm gonna say. That was that's the identical color to my first ever Corvette. Gold, hardtop. And that's a 60, that's a 72, I think.
I think it's a 70.
70?
Yeah.
Mine was a 68, and you had to push the button. Boom, boom, that was the first year for the C3. 4-speed car, that was the color. I bought it for $1,400.
How old were you?
16.
Wow.
16. I wish I could get one for $1,400.
Well, you can. It'd be a big junk pile.
Exactly. I've been looking and they're all garbage.
They are. Well, here's another one. See, I don't like this. I don't like that. I don't like the wheels. I don't like the headers.
Yeah.
Those were in style at one time, but hey, a lot of guys do. I like the original. Like that Mustang. That's cool.
Yeah, it is.
I like that stuff. But I have a lot of great memories.
It's really cool that you have an appreciation for all cars, not just race cars.
Yeah. I was in the car biz. That's how I raced. I was in high school. I was flipping hamburgers. $1.25 an hour. Deal was, we were selling food, and the salesman came in and he had these pepper steaks. He goes, look, Jimmy, I could sell you these, and I forget, it was like 48 in a case. And he could sell them to me for like 30 cents a piece or whatever. So he brings one, we make it, and I said, give me a case of them, I'll try them. 2 days, they're sold out. So the next week comes, and I do it again, but I buy 3 cases. And believe it or not, my Uncle Joe was the manager of the restaurant. He said, you ever do that again, I'm firing you. I said, listen, you son of a bitch, I quit. When you can't see the writing on the wall. And I said, you know what, you son of a bitch, I'm gonna own this restaurant one day. 3 months later, went out of business. I bought the restaurant, my wife and I, my girlfriend, which is my wife for 40 some years, Pat. We started our first car lot.
That's awesome.
But I was selling cars in school. I remember Mr. Crothy. I had a 72 Chevy Malibu, 307 automatic power steering brake, and boy, it was a nice car. Bought it from Hassai Chevrolet. Cleaned it all up, I drove it to school, and Mrs. Crothy saw the car. I sold it to her for $1,100. Those are the good times. And she drove that car till I graduated high school. But, you know, I realized then I could make money selling cars. And I loved cars. And then my wife, she went over the end. She went off the deep end. She started cleaning cars, and she started scrubbing the headliners. She started scrubbing them, and they were like they were incredible. And she went to school she worked for J.C. Penney. And was in marketing and stuff and sales, and I said, you can make more money in the car business with me. Well, she believed me, and we did. And then we kept building up, and then we moved down here in 80, kids were born in 86 and 88. We moved down here in 88 after Katrina was born. We wanted them both, the kids born by Dr. Meldrum, maybe, in Bloomsburg. Then Pat, she worked her ass off. Her and my sister Chrissy, they'd take the kids to races. I had a van, no campers, no motorhomes, no cell phones. I remember the first cell phone she bought me. It was an old bag phone. And so she could get in touch with me. And that son of a bee would pick up anywhere. Better than the phones today. And it was a Panasonic bag phone. And that thing, you had to turn the volume, it would blow you out. Today, these pieces of crap, I have an Apple. And you still drop calls no matter what. And this is like the Apple 15. The only bright side about these phones is they have the pictures. Those are my villains, my 4 villains there, my grandsons. Hudson's the oldest. Tristan's Jimmy's boy. That was his 4th birthday. And then Asher, he was almost 2. So, but that's what we spend time doing now. But yeah, the car business was good. So then we moved down here in 88. And then we built this building in 89.
Is that because you went and drove for Buddy Baker?
No, it was funny. I was sitting in the old shop. I was traveling back and forth from Pennsylvania to Carolina to race, and I was at Rockingham the second week, and Herb Nab got fired from Buddy Baker. I don't know the chain of events exactly, can't remember, but Herb Nab rented me his shop for $600. He liked me. He watched me race Daytona. He watched me race a couple races. Then he kept coming down to my shop, and he said, "Man, I like the way you drive this and that." And he says, "I'll tell you what I'll do." He says, "For $400, I'll help you set this car up, go to Bristol, the whole 9 yards." So I did. I'll be a somebody who finished third. I mean, you talk about incredible, right? I mean, third. So then I said, "Well, Herb," I says, "we got to go to Darlington." He says, "I'll do the same thing." So Herb comes down, works on the car. I go to Darlington. He goes, "Go talk to David Pearson. He's standing over there, and ask Pearson how to drive this track." So I did. Pearson explained to me going into turn 3. Turn 1 is actually what it was. It was turn 1 and turn 2. The sweep was 3 and 4. They changed it. And I ended up finishing 4th that day. Got $10,000 bonus. And the car owner, my partner, Frank Cece, said, "We can't afford that crap no more. We can't afford them." And but Herb would tell people that I had the potential. So I'm down here in the shop, 89.
Where was that shop Herb rented?
Herb had it down here, and I think Kurt Busch bought that shop. Kurt Busch bought the house and the shop for his mom and dad, I think.
Yeah, there's a property over there that Kurt owns.
That's probably it. It's down in there. It was a small shop. I think it was like 1,500 feet.
Okay.
I had to park the cars outside. But it was a shop, and it got me started. And in turn, I was in there one day, and we had 2 cars in the shop. We're working on them, and my other guy was underneath there, and the phone rings. And I said, "Oh, shit." So we have run in, no cell phones. So we run in to get the phone, and the phone goes, "Hey, this is Buddy Baker," and I forget how it exactly went. And I said, "If you're Buddy Baker, I'm the President of the United States," and hung the phone up. So I come out, and who was that? I said, "It was some asshole said he was Buddy Baker." Slides up from underneath the car. He's, "Jimmy." He says, "They just fired Greg Satch yesterday." I said, "What? You don't read the paper?" I said, "Don't have time." He said, "I'm telling you." 15 minutes goes by. My boy, I made a mistake. 15 minutes goes by. The phone rings again. "Hello, is this Jimmy?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "God damn it, this is Buddy Baker. Do you want to drive my car or don't you?" And I says, "Baker, I'll be over there immediately." He said, "Bring a damn seat and get your ass over here." Buddy gave me my first ride, and we went to Dover, and the motor broke, but we were running good. But he gave me my last 15 races of the year, and that got me in. Then I come over here, and Osterlin rented this shop. Osterlin was in here, and I was working with Rod Osterlin. What a crook! Earnhardt warned me about it. Dale Earnhardt did, and that's a whole nother story. They're the ones that had all the equipment. They had expensive equipment. But as the rent kept going and the checks kept bouncing, we were out of money. And he owed me a lot of money. And I ended up acquiring everything from him in this building, all the equipment, the whole 9 yards. And that's what got me back into my Busch days.
Do you think you would have done that had you not absorbed all of Osterlin's stuff?
Yeah, I didn't like driving for him. I was good. I was wanting to own my own cup team, but I said I'll go back into Busch racing because then at the time I drove for him. Some people inquired about me driving for them, you know, and I confided in Dale, and Dale said, "You need to drive that car." So he told me he was one of the smartest crew chiefs there was, Travis Carter. So I sat down with Travis and Junior Johnson that day, and they slid a piece of paper across with how much it was, and I was like, son of a... So it was a lot of money, real lot of money. And I was like, okay, I'll drive for you. So that got me back, you know, even though I didn't drive for Austin the last 2 races. I acquired all this, and then I started driving for Travis, the banquet car, and we ran really, really well, but the motors just kept blowing up. We had a chance of winning Bristol. I remember when I begged them to hire a new motor builder, and Harold Elliot came, and Harold Elliot was working with us, and they wouldn't listen to Harold. Harold was a hell of an engine builder, and I remember we had Bristol 1. Oh my God, and the throttle linkage broke. And Travis was so tight that he had this little all thread on the throttle linkage, and it broke. And Harold said to me, he said, I can't believe that son of a. He said that he didn't have a good throttle rod. He said, I knew when I was looking in the toolbox when they had another throttle linkage and set in the toolbox that isn't a good sign. And then we went on, and I worked with Travis, and then he lost his sponsorship the following year. Then I drove for Moroso. What's interesting, I was still in the shop, and David McKay had built a car here, a Ford Thunderbird. And Mike Wallace was driving for Moroso. Yep, Mike Wallace. And he wasn't doing really well. He wrecked a lot of cars. I don't know if it was at that time or not. I drove for Moroso twice. Won some races for Moroso. Bob Rinaldi had a hell of a motor. But I was driving for Moroso, and we had built a Thunderbird here. And man, was it a good looking car. I sold it because I wasn't going to race it to Chad Little when he was driving the car. And who won at Talladega?
Watch him, Chad. Oh, watch him, Chad.
Here comes Spencer to the outside. Little went up to block once. As he comes up, Spencer looks down. Final time, down into the tri-oval. Chad Little closes off the bottom. Spencer goes for the apron. He's not going to get there. And Chad Little wins the 2 fastest, longest races on the Busch Grand National Circuit.
I got second. My car that I built, that my shop built. What was interesting, we still should have won the race. Not making excuses, but what happened was the guys were short track guys, and they had aluminum at a 032 in front of the fan shroud, and it would blow down, and the motor would go to 250, and I have to pull in, and they cool it down. It was a screwed up deal. We still ended up getting second, but you know, that kept leading when I was going, and what got me in my rides was we were at Myrtle Beach. Mark Reno had built. Mark Reno was awesome. One of the best crew chiefs I ever worked with, because he believed me. And I would tell Mark what we were doing, what the car was doing, he'd fix it. And we were at Dick Moroso. What an awesome guy. I miss him. He was special. We were at Myrtle Beach, and the transmission broke, the shifter broke, and we pitted. We lost 3 laps, and come back out on the track, made one up. We're 2 laps down. Dick comes on the radio. It's guys, I think you need to save that car for next week, and it's like almost like an omen. You don't do that. And Mark said, Dick, just be quiet. We're going to win this race. And that's when you had to line up on the inside and make your laps up. And we made up all 3 laps. 2 laps we made up. The one we made up immediately. The second one we made up on circumstances with the caution, the whole 9 yards. We won the race. And Dick, I see him coming into the winner's circle, crying. And I'm like, what the hell? And he gave me a big hug and a kiss, and he goes, I could close the chapter of my book. And he said, you remember 3 years ago, or whatever it was, and I was leading the race, and L.D. Ottinger took me out, and Robbie Moroso won his first ever race. And to see Dick, I'll never forget it. I have a soft spot for that, because I have children too. And Dick helped me get going again, and then he helped me get my cup ride, got my ride with Bobby Allison and Junior, and you know, I wouldn't change anything in my career. You look back, I made so many friends, made so many mistakes, but my friends are more important. My memories are more important than all the wins and all the championships. A friendship to me. Buddy Baker, played golf with him. David Ift, Herb Nab, what his son be. He was awesome. Dick Moroso, he was special. James Finch, drove for him, won races. I wouldn't change anything. Too many good memories.
Because an interesting observation from this is that Jimmy is a real, true car guy across the board. He walked up to one of those things. He's like, what is this thing, a 5.3 or a 6.2? Sees it's an LS motor. And I'm like, dang, you know, race car drivers don't typically know that stuff. It's very rare that they do. It's strange. There's a lot of them who are super, you know, been racing their whole life, but they don't know what a transfer case is in a pickup truck, or they never worked on one, because it's just all they work on is race cars and that's it. That's not Jimmy. He's a car guy through and through, and I think that's really cool, because that's how I am. If you'd like to see any other videos with Jimmy, leave your ideas in the comments, because we could probably make that happen. You can tell during his time that he was very drawn to listening and absorbing wisdom from the old school guys, even the old school guys of the late 80s. And those are the people that we cannot talk to anymore. So Jimmy is kind of a conduit for those lessons and observations to us today. And I think that's really cool, because really that's the next best thing to talking to those guys. They're not around anymore. How else are you going to hear those things? If you enjoy this history stuff, make sure you hit thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe. Subscribing does not cost anything. It just, when you open YouTube on your phone, your computer, your TV, and we post a new video, you're more likely to see that new video recommended to you. And I would think if you like this video, you would want to see more videos like it. Maybe. I'm actually in my dad's backyard right now. We're about to go to Michigan to film several videos up there. More. Yes, we were just in Michigan with Johnny Benson, and now we're going back. A lot of traveling this summer, and we can't wait to get going. If you'd like to support what we're doing, you see the, you know, vintage Stavola style hat I'm wearing right now. You can go to Stapletonautoworks.com. We got cool stuff over there. We're gonna have more stuff coming soon. Hats, stickers, shirts. You can show your support for the channel, and it helps put diesel in the tank, helps us get hotel rooms to make more videos that are not necessarily in our backyard. Because then you know how expensive traveling is these days. It's hard to not come out backwards if we go on a road trip to make a video. But that's a story for a different day.